in the day. It is one of the big decks going into this tournament. The interesting thing about this tournament was that a lot of players were very hyped on this deck. They were saying, "Oh, Darkrai is going to be the play." People, that's what I'm going to play. I think it's the best deck. But then there were a lot of players who just didn't respect it at all and didn't talk about it at all. So it was really interesting to see kind of the two approaches to it, and kind of, there's one group of players that just thinks it's overpowered, and there's one that thinks it's unplayable.
On the other side, though, we have Anthony Nimmons playing Mega Guardy. That's a deck that I didn't know if we were going to see too much of this weekend, but I actually thought people were potentially underestimating it. It's such a powerful deck, and it seems to have okay matchups currently in the format.
That's like your favorite deck, right?
Oh, I wouldn't call it my favorite deck, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. I think the Mega Gardevoir deck just has so much potential to just blow up and really put a lot of pressure on your opponent. And the fact that it gets to use Shaman while most of these other decks just really can't anymore. And it can, take away the fact that it's a liability just by discarding it for its own attack. Just it's a very powerful deck, and it's a thing of beauty. It's art in Pokemon TCG form.
Maybe. I
know that there's a high requirement for what it takes to be considered art in the Kenny Wisdom book of I guess artistry, but I don't know, man. I think it definitely qualifies.
So the interesting thing about this Darkrai deck, I spoke with Sorina about her specific list a little bit earlier in the day, and she's running it's very, very consistent. There's kind of just 4 of almost all the trainers. There's 3 Lysander. There's 14 Dark Energy, 4 Altar of the Moon. Just very, very, a lot of 4-0s, very consistent, kind of trying to execute one game plan.
Sure.
However, she is also running a 1/1 Garbotoxin Garbodor, and so that's just kind of in there to take advantage of these ability-based decks, and because of the 4 Altar of the Moon, it has free retreat. So it's kind of almost like a free inclusion in there. It's something I think Sorina said earlier, something like, "Oh, it shouldn't be okay to put that in the deck, but it is. Like somehow you can just make it work." Looks like players are getting set up here.
We do see Sorina setting up. She actually had to take a mulligan, so that's one additional card that gets drawn here from Anthony at the start of the game. Now, I do want to take a moment to talk a little bit about Mega Gardevoir and the fact that it's actually weak to metal but resistant to darkness. That could be a factor, especially earlier in the game. I think that if you don't play test against the Mega Gardevoir deck, sometimes it's a little bit confusing to hit the numbers, and you need to just keep that at the forefront of your thoughts, because it's not something that you really get to deal with a lot when it comes to Pokemon resisting your darkness type.
Yeah, just saw Anthony's prizes. Nothing too big that I noticed. 2 Sycamore and a Lysander from Sorina, but nothing major besides that. So unless I missed something on Anthony's side, I think both players will be pretty much on even ground. And here we go.
All right, now Sorina does get to go first on this opening turn of the game. Remember, this is game 1 of round 3 between Sorina Radu and Anthony Nimmons. Sorina does play a Tapu Lele, starting to Wonder Tag on her first turn of the game. And that Wonder Tag does have a few options. I like that that Sorina actually plays I wouldn't call the deck prepared for Garbodor, but it's the deck that plays a 3 versus Seeker, 3 Lysander type of deal. I think that's very important. I think that's very powerful actually against a lot of non-Garbodor decks too.
Yeah, the thing about the deck is that it's just kind of inherently powerful. Like what you're doing is just very simple. You're attacking, you're trying to catch a lot of energy, and it's kind of very, like we said earlier, just a very consistently trying to attack and deal damage.
Does find that energy off of the Max Elixir, which will power up both the Darkrai and the Tapu Lele in a sense. And there's a N here from Sorina. Does shuffle both players' hands into their decks and draws them 6 cards each.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of this Dark Pulse Darkrai, is that you don't, it counts all the energy on your side of the board, so you can kind of attach energy like we saw Sorina do with that Max Elixir onto the Tapu Lele, and not really have to worry about your Darkrai maybe going down and taking all of its energy with it. You can power up the Darkrai even if there's not a whole lot of energy on it. So you can kind of spread yourself out a little bit more and not kind of go all in on one Pokemon.
Sure. And now both players draw for the end here, and I don't like Sorina's hand. Sorina actually has nothing really to do beyond just pass on this turn, I believe. Well, maybe I didn't take a look. No, yeah.
She just has energy and a choice band, and
Does choose to pass, and now that means that Anthony Nimmons gets to start his turn, and he starts the turn off with a Hoopa. Here we're going to get to see, you know, the ensemble really that Anthony gets to play here because of so many different Pokemon that he gets to play because of that Despair Ray getting rid of all of them whenever he finds them to be, you know, past their prime.
yeah, this is one of the only decks that Hoopa is still very good in. A lot of, Hoopa Scoundrel Ring cannot get GXs, and so a lot of the decks have kind of shied away from it. But this deck and Mega Rayquaza, there's still plenty of EXs that you want to get. So it's really the perfect card for this sort of deck as we see all the Gardevoirs coming into play.
Sure enough, that is what they're there for. And that Hoopa just showing how powerful it can be. Remember, I expect to see a huge turn here from Anthony. I think that because of that Hoopa start, we're going to see a lot of cards get played here from Anthony's board. And Sorina's going to need a lot of help to really start to catch up here against Anthony's field full of Gardevoirs.
Gardevoirs hit the board, and of course Hoopa Scoundrel Ring can even grab the Mega, and there's a Hex Maniac.
Interesting.
He's going to go ahead and pass the turn back, so no draw support there for Anthony. You see an experience share on that Tapu Lele.
What do you think about that play, by the way? The fact that he chose not to really extend too deep with his hand and chose to just go with a Hex Maniac instead of just going with a Hoopa, finding a couple Shamans and things like that.
I think it's fine. You kind of want to start setting, like you're kind of a slow deck. Like he's going to try to Mega Evolve next turn, and you don't really need to go off immediately. And I think he doesn't really know exactly what's in Sorina's deck. She could be playing, a lot of Shaman, or he just kind of wants her to not really go off. Whereas he still needs like at least one more turn.
Sure. That's another thing too, is the fact that we don't have deck lists here, so we don't actually get access to information on like how many Spirit Links he might play, for example. And that tells you a lot about how he intends to play the the deck out. If he plays, say, just 2 copies of Spirit Link, then yeah, he's definitely going for a slower game. But if he's playing the 4, the max 4 amount of Spirit Links, then all of a sudden you start to wonder if he really might have taken a different strategy sometimes and just gone for multiple Shamans and setting up for say 10 cards plus.
Sure, so we saw Sorina get an Eviltal with that Ultra Ball. Now she's just going to go ahead and attack there. 110 with Dark Pulse, and back to Anthony. Oh, there is a Spirit Link you were just talking about. Going to allow him to Mega Evolve.
There it is, a Mega Gardevoir and a Float Stone here from the Gardevoir. So even though Sorina didn't have access to abilities because of the Hex Maniac, she still got to deal quite a bit of damage to the active Gardevoir. And now Anthony's going to have to find a way to kind of mitigate all that. Now, because of Despair Ray, he actually does get to do that whenever he chooses to. But it's, I'm liking the way Anthony's playing this. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Anthony's playing this very methodically, and it's working out for him. And it's just, he knew that the Gardevoir wasn't going to get knocked out, which means it'll be able to go into the bench, retreat, bring up the Mega Gardevoir here, and all of a sudden that Despair Ray is going to be able to get rid of any damage that Sorina might have dealt last turn.
Yeah, that's one of the big advantages of the Gardevoir deck, is just being able to play a bunch of Pokemon on the board. If they get damaged, it's fine. If they're low HP, it's fine, because you can just Despair Ray them away and get them back later, and just kind of you get to kind of control when they're on the board and what happens to them. Not perfect, of course. You still need to, find ways to bring them back, usually in the form of Dragonite or something. But it's a huge way to kind of just invalidate a lot of deck strategies.
A Sycamore discards 5 cards here from Anthony, but draws him 7 additional ones. He's looking for an energy, I believe. I think he only has 1 in play.
He just has a single Fairy Energy on the Mega Gardevoir on the bench. It looks like he missed. I didn't see one in his hand.
I didn't see one in his hand either. I turned to you to look just for the confirmation, but I didn't see one in his hand. And no, there's a second look that we've got going on, and still no energy. Now, if he finds, say, a Skyfield, that's if he even plays that, which I would assume he does. If he finds a Skyfield and he gets to draw additional cards through maybe a Shaman or something along those lines, I'd have to take another look at his hand. But there is definitely some, a lot of things missing from this hand.
Yeah, so he just chooses to Mega Evolve, no Spirit Link, which will end his turn.
Lysander here, actually, from Sorina. That Lysander does get to target that a Mega Gardevoir, which means she's going to bring the fight to the Gardevoir here.
Yeah, now it's going to go ahead and Dark Pulse.
Now that Dark Pulse will be dealing, it says 120 here, 130. It's 20 plus.
It's 20 plus 20 times, yeah.
Yeah.
So Anthony's really going to need to find an energy here, find a way to get anything going here.
Are we not accounting for darkness resistance?
Yeah, it should have 20 less on it because it is resistant to dark.
Right, I believe it
Get
should
that
only have
fixed.
110 damage on it and not 130. That's kind of what's been confusing me a little bit here.
Hopefully they can get that fixed soon.
Mm-hmm.
Versus Seeker for the end, putting both players to 6 cards. Immediately going to play it.
Remember what we were talking about earlier, how the darkness resistance is just something that rarely comes up into play whenever anybody's playing against dark, because it's such a rare resistance to have that, you know, people just don't account for it. And in this situation, Anthony didn't even account for it either. But I mean, still, it's something that will get fixed. It's not that big of a deal as long as it gets fixed. And the N will draw both players 6 cards still, because neither player has taken a prize quite yet. But it's starting to look like they're getting ready to trade some haymakers here, as both of these players have pretty much everything set up.
Yeah, Anthony's on the back foot here. He really needs to go off this turn, which I see the energy. We need some Skyfield action. We're going to need kind of a lot from him here, but that's something the Gardevoir deck can do. I don't...
And then from that point on, some Mega Turbos, some more Spirit Links and whatnot. But
Yeah, okay, it looks like they're fixing the damage
Yeah.
distribution now.
and both of these Pokemon, it should actually have a little bit less
Yeah.
damage, I believe. Yeah, okay, so they are
Bench
fixing.
one should have 90. I didn't see a whole lot going on in Anthony's hand, unfortunately. I see the energy. He has a Stadium, but I don't... He has the Rescue Stretchers, but I don't think there's really any Pokemon in his discard pile. Looks like this will not be the biggest... Oh, no, there are Pokemon in his discard pile. Looks like this will not be the biggest turn for him, but maybe he can put something together here. There's a second energy.
There is that second energy. He'll finally be able to start Despair Raying. He seems to just be content discarding these 3 Pokemon here and leaving himself with only a single bench Pokemon.
Well, this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. This is kind of the advantage, right? The Gardevoir had damage on it. Hoopa can be a major liability if it gets stuck in the active position, and Shaman has low hit points, so this is one of the advantages of the Gardevoir deck, is that you're saying, okay, I don't really care about these Pokemon that I'm playing, I'm just going to discard them, so if you want to damage them, if you want to try maybe to Sprite or something in a different matchup, or try to lock them active, it's, you know, probably not going to work out, because I get to kind of control when they're on the board. That does come at a cost. He doesn't just get to get them back for free, but it is one of the advantages, and one of the things that allows the Gardevoir deck to play such a mix of Pokemon.
Sure. And speaking of things coming at a cost, we do have to mention that, you know, because you play cards like Spirit Link, cards like Choice Band actually become much weaker in your deck. Like, it's not a consistent thing that you can actually pull off. You won't be able to just guarantee that you'll be able to play a Choice Band onto your Mega Gardevoir. So I don't know how many Choice Bands Anthony plays, because we don't have a deck list available, but I mean, it's conceivable that he plays 1 or 0 even. So it's going to be hard for him to hit these, you know, large numbers onto the Darkrai to get a knockout himself. And we might have to see, you know, 2-turn knockouts back and forth from both of these players, with Anthony having the advantage of having cards like Mega Turbo available to him. Max Elixir here actually gives Sorina the advantage as well on her end, because now she can find the Darkness energies from her deck and kind of accelerate some energies out that way. And now an N will shuffle both players' hands into their decks and draw them 6 cards again. Go figure.
Yeah, so Sorina's in a really good position here. You can see this is one of the advantages I was talking about earlier with Darkrai, is that she's able to load up the energy on that Evoltol, and that's acting as both a way to attack later with the Evoltol if she needs to, do some damage with a non-EX Pokemon, especially if that Darkrai goes down, but also it powers up her current Darkrai with Dark Pulse. Just one of the beautiful things about this deck is that you're able to just spread your energy around, not have to commit. You know, there's the Evoltol EX, which is a very popular Pokemon. It has an Evil Ball attack that you kind of encourages you to attach energy to itself.
Sure.
And that is something that is very powerful, but can come at a real cost. And the Darkrai deck kind of mitigates that and is able to kind of reserve your resources a little bit better for the long game.
I agree with that. Now Sorina plays an Ultra Ball, choosing which cards to discard for the Ultra Ball. Looks like the Yveltal will be the first card gone. Now the Ultra Ball can find her the Garbodor, for example. That's definitely a card that she can she can find here, if she can find herself a floatstone to go with that, I think that that's very powerful against the deck that's constantly using abilities from cards like Shaman and Tapu Lele. But instead, she chooses to go for another Darkrai.
Yeah, I think the Garbodor is strong here too. Anthony, you've been talking a lot about how he can discard his Pokemon and power up his attack, but that does come at a cost. Usually the Dragonite ability or just being able to draw more cards is huge. I think Sorina almost just made him a monumental mistake, but that is huge. So shutting off your Garbodor, or shutting off your abilities with Garbodor can really just kind of lock you out of the game in a way if you can't deal with it.
Sure. Yeah, she almost.
I think she forgot about resistance again.
Yeah.
It was going to attack with the Evoltal, but she at the last minute figures it out, takes 2 prizes, and is in a really dominant position here. Anthony can definitely go off here. This is kind of how this deck works. I see he does have a Shaman in his hand. He does have lots of things to play, but Sorina is pretty comfortable here, especially after finding that second Darkrai.
Looks like. Oh man, Anthony needs quite a bit of help here, specifically a Mega Turbo. A Mega Turbo is definitely going to be the card that Anthony's looking for more than pretty much anything. The Oricorio will be able to Vital Dance to get a couple of energies into Anthony's hand here, but only one of them can be played.
Yeah, just looking through the rest of his hand, looks like he's going to try and...
Might actually only go for a single energy, and it looks like he does. You want to get as many cards from your Shaman as you possibly can.
Yeah, he has an Ultra Ball, so he's just kind of trying to conserve the amount of cards in his hand. So just getting the one. And I didn't see quite what else was in his hand. He's going to, of course, attach there. He'll be trying to discard some cards here to power up that Shaman. Like we said, he does need to rebuild this turn.
Ultra Ball discards Hex Maniac. This could realistically be the final turn of abilities before he finds an answer to a potential Garbodor. So that's something that definitely has to be on the back of Anthony's mind here. He might want to just extend as far as he possibly can here.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this position is that he just needs to attack to deal with the Darkrai, and that puts Sorina on the back foot. She's still in an okay position. She has the Evoltal fully built up. She has a Darkrai ready to go in a turn or two. But he can just get a even if things don't work out for him here, as long as he hits a Mega Turbo, he can get a knockout. And he looks like he's going to be drawing
sets up
quite a few cards.
4-card setup. Does he find a Mega Turbo? I don't think so.
I didn't see it in that hand. But he does have another Shaman, I believe. Skyfield gets rid of the Altar of the Moon. Gonna allow, this is another card that's really important we haven't seen at the board yet, as it allows the Gardevoir deck to play as many Pokemon on their bench basically as they want, and really, again, you overextend, you play a lot of Pokemon, and then you just despair ray them away.
Sure. Now potentially going to see another setup here from Shaman. Okay, so there's a Spirit Link being put on the Shaman for another setup for additional cards. I see a Skyfield. I do not see a Mega
Turbo. He did hit the Mega Turbo.
Yep. The Mega Turbo on the front of his hand. There is the potential for an attack now, which is really huge here for Anthony, as it's going to allow him to knock out Sorina's Darkrai, and more importantly, get rid of any really strong attackers on Sorina's end, as now Sorina will have to either choose a Tapu Lele or an Yveltal to continue to fight the good fight against Anthony.
And this is the other thing, is that Anthony is now in a position where he can choose to discard the Pokemon with the Spare Ray, but he can also not if he would rather kind of leave them there if he thinks that maybe he's going to need them for later. So it's not always this good of a position, but he is getting the 2-hit knockout here, so he can kind of have his cake and eat it too if he wants. It is risky; those are low HP Pokemon, but
yeah, that is definitely an interesting choice. I'm not gonna deny that. It seems like Yveltal, being the main attacker and only dealing 100 damage might make you feel a little bit safe if you're Anthony. Like, maybe I can get away with not discarding them for a turn and conserve a few resources here. I think I'd be okay with that choice. I think I would probably even make that choice myself. But I wouldn't fault Anthony for either play that he makes at this point. Rescue Stretcher in his hand, and I think he might want to play it now. Find as many cards as he can before the Garbodor hits play.
Another important thing to note that will come up after this knockout is that this deck also plays Experience Share as another way to just kind of keep energy on the board. Again, anywhere there's energy attached is good for you, and so this...
That's a lot of tools, man.
It just even... yeah. There's basically 4 of all the item cards and a lot of the supporter cards as well.
Sure.
And they're just saying, we're going to keep this energy on the board, and again, just kind of continue to press my advantage. It is a lot of item cards, and one of the big things going into this tournament for me that me and Kyle Sukovich talked about earlier is that a lot of people are cutting down their field blower counts. I think when the card first came out, we saw a lot of 2-ofs in decks, and now we're seeing a lot of 1-ofs. And I've even seen people cut it entirely. So it's really interesting to see the kind of that reduction and how that will have an effect on things like deciding to play tools.
And that's an interesting choice to make too, because Garbodor is so popular, and pretty much every Trash Lanch deck has one Garbotoxin, So it's a really interesting choice to make, because Garbodor is as popular as it's probably ever been. Chooses to Despair Ray, getting rid of every benched Pokemon, and down goes Darkrai. That's 2 prizes taken for Anthony, as he ties up Sorina, Radu at 4 apiece. But Sorina now has an interesting choice. Does she go with a Yveltal as her potential attacker, or a Tapu Lele, which had a experience share on it, which means that it now has 2 energy on it?
Yeah, caught the experience share at the last minute. That's going to be really important. And now it looks like she's going to go ahead and promote that non-EX Yveltal. Non-EX Yveltal is a really interesting card. It's seen less play as time has gone on, but it's very powerful. It's very reminiscent of the non-EX Volcanion, in that it has 1 attack that can does little damage but can accelerate you, which is really important for this deck. And then it also has an attack that can just do 100 for 3, which is not the greatest rate, but considering it's a non-EX Pokemon, is important. So very versatile card. There, as we see, it also holds a choice band now.
Yeah, plenty of choices here for Sorina as she goes through a Versus Seeker, decides to go with...
She got a Hex Maniac.
Okay, Hex Maniac, there it is. There's a little bit of glare on my end, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It looks like she's going to go ahead and play the Tapu Lele.
Tapu Lele now going for a Sycamore here.
So I'd expect her to play the Hex Maniac this turn, and I think what she's trying to do is just kind of cut Anthony off of getting anywhere. He has no board left. He can, even if it's something like a Shaman, he can play the card, just won't have any effect. But she's just hoping that he won't be able to get set up, or maybe if he doesn't have the right combination of cards, won't be able to find anything.
Yeah, and it looks like Yveltal did hit Tails on the Darkness Blade attack. Yeah, which means that it won't be able to attack on the following turn.
Yeah, not the biggest deal, as that Darkrai looks like it's going to be set up, but it is unfortunate. Now we have... Now the ball is in Anthony's court. Well, not the ball is in Anthony's court. It's up to Anthony to kind of figure out what to do from here. Looks like he's taking his time. Gonna go ahead and check the discard pile of Sorina.
So Anthony obviously does not have access to abilities this turn, which is pretty much everything that Anthony needs. We keep stating this, but it really is that important. If you don't have access to abilities and half of your Pokemon are meant to be the way you set up, and that's because of their abilities, then you're gonna have a rough time kind of coming back whenever you're behind. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Is Anthony did get a return knockout, but now we see a little bit of pressure on Anthony, and he doesn't really have a way to, to kind of mitigate that kind of damage that's done. At this point, this is the turn where he'd like to say, get a knockout on this Yveltal, for example. I think that that's something that's huge for him, because it'll get rid of 3 more darkness energies that, that Sorina struggled to get into play. But that's not even a guarantee here. It really is not a guarantee for Anthony to be able to get, these Pokemon. I don't believe his hand had him.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and end both players down to 4, which Sorina is more comfortable with. Anthony's hand was kind of forced there in that she had a Sycamore, so he could have made a different choice. I didn't quite see what was in his hand, but it's always good to kind of remove that from...
I see an Ultra Ball, and I see... Is that 1 Pokemon, or is that 2 supporters?
It looks like it's a Pokemon. And
it looks like...
Sycamore. It's a Mega Gardevoir.
But it's a Mega Gardevoir. It's not even a Pokemon you can bench. So there is not going to be a knockout on this Yveltal.
Considering what to do now,
it looks like a scoop. Yeah, I would concede too in that position. I think that when he doesn't have a return knockout onto Sorina's Yveltal, that's just going to be too much, too many energy still in play for Sorina, too much of an advantage for Sorina here. And Anthony does acknowledge that, and I actually really appreciate when people realize that they've lost the game, so they try to conserve as much time as possible. I think that that's a skill that not every Pokemon player has. Well, not every competitive player has in anything that's a timed event. And when I do see that, I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, one of the big differences between tournament play at this level and maybe something like your local league or your casual play is that the clock does matter, and it's very important. You might be watching and saying, "Oh, well, Serena still had prizes left. Why did he concede?" But he's just trying to save time so that hopefully, he's realizing, "Oh, I don't think I can win this game. I need to save times. Hopefully, I can win game 2 and game 3." So just one of those things that kind of it's a tournament operation sort of thing that doesn't always come up if you're just playing casually.
Now, this one was a very clear-cut defeat for Anthony. Like, he only had the access to an Ultra Ball. Any Pokemon that he found would not have its ability. It was definitely going to, go Serena's way, with the exception of some insane luck from Anthony's side, in future turns because of that Hex Maniac. But that's not the point. The point is that Anthony conserved as much time as he could once he realized that the game was kind of out of his hands, and Sorina now has a 1-0 advantage against Anthony Nimmons, and she's one game away from being 3-0 at the International Championships, which is
wow. So all of
about
Serena's versus Seeker are prized. Serena's cut down. Sorry to interrupt, Josue. Serena's cut down to 3 versus Seeker, as a lot of the decks have, and they're all prized.
3 versus Seeker prized.
So she will not be able to get back any supporters.
You can interrupt me anytime that there's 3 versus Seekers prized. In anybody's field. Now, a Dragonite EX is the starter, it looks like, for Anthony.
And we didn't get to see this come into play last game, but the Dragonite's really important for this deck and kind of the way it functions. That ability, pull up, you can just take 2 basic Pokemon, not Dragonites, of course, and put them back into your hand. So you can imagine that Anthony Despair Rays away, Shaymins or Hoopas is a very popular thing to do, and then you can, I'll pull up, get this Hoopa, play it again, Scoundrel Ring, get more Pokemon, and that's kind of the cycle that you can do. You can also Rescue Stretcher and get Dragonite back, or you just shuffle back ability. We didn't really see Anthony get to do what he wanted to do last game, but that's kind of what you're looking for.
We're seeing the exact same, start here from Anthony as last game, where he goes for a Hoopa, buys himself 2 Gardevoir and a Mega Gardevoir, attaches onto the benched Gardevoir, and is going to basically allow his Dragonite EX to take a couple of hits potentially, but that's not the point. The point is that he's going to start setting up these Gardevoirs on the bench, keep them as safe as he possibly can, and go from there. Now, a Mallow is a supporter that we don't really see very often.
Yeah, so this is a newish supporter that I think it's going to have kind of a breakout weekend here. I haven't seen many people playing Gardevoir, but I know that there are some players on the Mega Rayquaza deck.
Sure.
And I think what we're going to see here, didn't see Anthony's hand, so it's not a guarantee, but what you can do with Mallow is search your deck for 2 cards, put them on top, and then you play a Shaymin, set up, and just draw them. So in a way, it just reads kind of put 2 cards into your hand, any of the you want. The Rayquaza decks can use Unknown sometimes and Farewell Letter. So it's kind of one of the supporters that I think we're going to see a lot more of this weekend that we haven't really seen much of. It does not look like that is the case for Anthony, though, as he has to pass the turn back. Anthony
does pass, which leaves Sorina to start her turn. A Max Elixir does find a Darkness Energy, which gets attached to the Beltal on the bench. The Max Elixir has been very, very powerful here for Sorina throughout these 2 games, as it's just accelerated her so much beyond what Anthony can do. And Anthony's been struggling to keep up with the energy counts, and that's kind of been the story of the match here.
Doesn't look like Sorina has a supporter in her hand, though. She Max Elixir, passes the Choice Band, just has to pass. She has a Lysander, but no draw support.
A very weak start here for Sorina, all things considered. And that means that Anthony now has a really big window here where he can start catching up. A Spirit Link from Gardevoir evolves into a Mega Gardevoir, another Spirit Link, which leaves him with a Shaymin to 5. 5 cards here drawn here from Anthony. You have to believe that he's going to find exactly what he needs here at this point, because that's just such a huge advantage compared to the amount of cards that Sorina has had access to in this game. And a Floatstone, which is exactly the card that Anthony needed, will allow him to retreat that Dragonite and allow him to start Despairing as early as this turn. And I'd be very surprised if that's not what we see right now.
It looks like they're talking with the judges about something, but there is a Floatstone on the Dragonite. I imagine what's going to happen is a retreat into a Despair Ray.
Sure. I really am kind of interested to see what they're talking about. I don't know if we missed anything. I don't think we did. Look, we're getting a thumbs up, so Anthony's kind of saying, like, yeah, man, everything's cool. Everything's all right.
So this setup is much closer to what the Gardevoir deck wants to be doing.
Of course.
Rather than game 1, which you saw kind of a stumble here. The kind of ideal thing is if Anthony can kind of fill his bench, go off, Despair Ray, discard everything, and then, okay, next turn I'll Rescue Stretcher for my Dragonite, pull up, bring everything back, and kind of, the only thing you need to do besides that is just keep rebuilding your Gardevoir. You see he has another one on the bench, not a Mega Evolution yet, but it does have a Spirit Link on it. And so it's very unlikely that if he does Despair Ray here, it's very unlikely that Mega Gardevoir gets knocked out. So it gives him an extra turn to attach an energy to that Gardevoir, maybe find a Mega Evolution, just kind of keep that whole train going.
Yeah, Mega Gardevoir is actually a very explosive deck. It can play a slightly longer game, but the fact that it's a Mega Evolution that only has 210 hit points is, slightly worrisome, which means that really Mega Gardevoir's biggest strength is the fact that he can just come out of the gates and deal so much damage early on that your opponent can't really keep up. And we see a Lysander here from Anthony, bringing that Yveltal up to the active's position, and now Anthony finally does retreat, brings up the Mega Gardevoir, and that's going to be a knockout onto this Yveltal. A very easy knockout, leaving Sorina with only a single Pokemon in play, no energies, no tools, and no supporters in hand.
Yeah, so that's Anthony just saying, you know what, I can't knock out your...
An Ultra Ball here is a huge top deck from Sorina. That is a giant, monumental top deck, as now Sorina will be able to draw or pick up any Pokemon that she chooses. No doubt, I believe we're going to be seeing potentially a Tapu Lele here. I can't imagine any other Pokemon really being found here from Sorina.
Yeah, great top deck. Really keeping her in the game here. She didn't really have much going on. Like we said, just had that Lysander in hand. And yeah, I got to imagine this is going to find a Tapu Lele. Be interesting to note if Sorina notes her prizes here and realizes that her Versus Seekers are prized.
She went through it a little fast. I don't know if she was particularly looking for the Versus Seekers quite yet. At a certain point, she's definitely going to start, paying attention to that. But it doesn't seem like that might have been what her priority was on this turn, because she was just probably so excited, to have top decked out of that awful situation. And, it's not like everything's fixed at this point. She still has no energy in play. But that's huge. That keeps her in the game. And now, as long as she doesn't fall too far behind, she could definitely come up with a big comeback. As like we said before, Anthony's deck does have a few stumbles once it falls behind. The problem here for Sorina might be that it might never fall behind in this spot. It might actually just stay so far ahead that Sorina will be playing catch-up the entire match, and that's just not where you want to be against Gardevoir.
Yeah, I mean, this really isn't one of those back-breaking ends or anything. Obviously, Anthony could draw terribly, but he's getting 5 cards. Serena has no energy on the board. You can see she's attaching to that bench Darkrai, just saying, I know that the active one is not going to do me any good. It's going to get knocked out in a turn or two. Sure. And no Trubbish, no anything. So Serena is definitely still on the back foot here. And like we said, now we're seeing that second Gardevoir start to get built up, which is just perfect. Gardevoir is a 2-energy attacker. We do have Mega Turbo to kind of mitigate some of that, but the more you can kind of just safely have another Gardevoir ready to attack, the better you feel, and the less you kind of need. Now all you need is to get the bench gimmicks going.
And now, speaking of getting things going here, Anthony is looking through his discard pile, trying to see what the best route is for him to kind of draw as many cards as he can and put as many Pokemon onto his bench as he can. That's really his only strategy at this point. Like, the Mega Gardevoir deck is not a very complicated deck. You get Pokemon onto play, you get as many Gardevoirs despairing as possible, and then you just kind of Lysander up their biggest threats. If you can do that, you're going to be just fine with Mega Gardevoir.
Yep, and Anthony wisely trying to just kind of eliminate energy on Serena's side of the board. He just kind of playing conservatively, Lysandering up that Darkrai and just hitting it for 90. Just kind of saying, all right, well, I believe he had a Shaman in his hand, just didn't kind of want to try to commit too much and miss here, just instead saying, I'm fine with the 2-hit.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised here. I don't know how important the Lysander was. I think you might want to conserve those Lysanders for more, important situations. But you are dealing damage to the potential attacker, so that's not it's not irrelevant. But now we see an Oblivion Wing Yveltal get an energy attached to it, and now it becomes the active Pokemon. So we will start seeing some energy acceleration here out of Sorina, kind of putting her back in this game, because Anthony really hasn't, broken Serena's back, so to speak, yet, right? So Anthony hasn't, taken down too many Pokemon, hasn't really stifled Sorina all that much, and has kind of just dealt 90 damage and passed. That's not exciting. That's not something that's going to take Sorina out of this game.
Yeah, Altar of the Moon, really important find for Sorina there, and she's able to now just kind of retreat, start powering up her Pokemon. Like we talked about earlier, that Yveltal is really important, can kind of play 2 roles, mostly Oblivion Winging, mostly playing the role of kind of accelerating and putting more energy on the board. Again, because of the power of Darkrai, she's able to spread the energy around so that she can start attacking with that non-damage Darkrai the next turn. And so Sorina is on the back foot here, but she is doing everything she can to kind of get herself back into this. We see that second Gardevoir.
Okay, I guess if you commit 2 Lysanders, this play does become a little bit better, as now the Darkrai will be able to get knocked out here. But that was a heavy committal. That's not an irrelevant amount of supporters that got dedicated to getting this Darkrai off the board, and that was only a single energy on it. So that's something that we're going to want to keep in mind. But at the same time, Anthony's going to go down to 3 prizes now, as opposed to Sorina still having 6 prizes remaining. So that is big for Sorina here. But it did come at a pretty hefty cost for Anthony.
Sorina almost misses her experience share, but gets it at the last minute. And we see that even though that Anthony did not need to discard this Pokemon, he chose to just to get them off the board. Very smart. Very smart play here, as he's not at any risk of getting ability locked or anything this turn. Especially not now that Serena is discarding a Hex Maniac, and she doesn't have any Versus Seekers left. But
yeah,
so
no kidding.
One of the advantages you can have, one of the little things you can do to keep yourself in the game. There's a second Darkrai. Serena trying to just rebuild. And there's an end.
This end now is much more powerful for Sorina, as now Anthony's only going to get access to 3 cards coming off of the end, as opposed to Sorina 6. Now, Anthony has a lot of ways to get out of that end lock because of the amount of draw support Pokemon that he plays. But still, there's always the potential that you just get, end into a 3-card unplayable hand, and then any type of advantage you might have had is just out the window. So that's something we're going to want to keep an eye on for Anthony here, as his 3 cards get drawn, and it looks like the first one is Versus Seeker, so he seems to be fine. And now Sorina, on the other hand, wants to start doing things beyond just Oblivion Wing. I think that's just not a path to victory that you can really take. You're dealing 10 damage every time you Oblivion Wing, and you are getting an energy back onto the field, which is huge, but that's just, unless you're going to be able to follow that up with a big knockout, it's just not going to be something that you can really confidently do. And sure enough, she agrees, as she retreats the Yveltal, which is going to allow her to get a 2-hit knockout on this Gardevoir, as opposed to just dealing 10 damage to it.
The Gardevoir goes up to 90. Sorina hoping to find some more energy on the next turn, and we did see Anthony did draw a Versus Seeker off of his end, so he will be able to kind of rebuild this turn, or at least do what he can to rebuild. Looks like he's just considering his options. Oh, there's a Dragonite that we were talking about. One of the kind of main role players in this deck, kind of allows you to keep repeatedly Despair Raying.
Yeah, Dragonite does reach down onto the discard pile and chooses to pull up any 2 Pokemon he chooses. And it looks like it's going to be a Shaman and I believe a Hoopa.
It's a Hoopa EX, yeah.
The Hoopa will find potentially more Gardevoirs. Could be other Shamans, really. Sky's the limit here.
Well, this is exactly the play pattern we were talking about earlier, where you just Dragonite, pull up these things, kind of just keep resetting. Also, interestingly to note about Hoopa is that it can grab Mega Evolution, so it can just grab that Mega Gardevoir if Anthony chooses, or it has a Spirit Link on it, and just evolve immediately and just kind of have a second attacker ready to go. And that is what's going to happen. Just a Gardevoir and a Mega Gardevoir.
The right Pokemon to have in play here wants to start powering up a 3rd Gardevoir, as that's kind of the only way you're going to lose this game, is if your opponent kind of runs you out of energies. So very solid plays here from Anthony, and it seems like Anthony's just really starting to take control of this game as long as he can keep these knockouts going. We see how, as long as he draws out of the ends from Sorina, he's just got too far of an advantage, too far of a lead for Sorina to really keep up here, as she just doesn't deal enough damage. The Darkness Resistance, combined with the fact that he's been mitigating the amount of energies that Sorina gets into play, it's been a finely played game here from Anthony, and Serena's been playing her heart out too, but just not much she can do when she has to draw a pass for a couple of turns at the beginning of the game.
And Anthony, once again, choosing the Lysander. He's dealing with the Yveltal on the bench. I think just kind of saying, eliminating energy, I'm going down to 2 prizes, so I can hopefully hit that Tapu Lele on a future turn, or just whenever I can take a knockout on a Darkrai, that'll be the game.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't really get rid of an energy anyways because of the experience share, as long as she remembers.
Right, it gets rid of the potential of Oblivion Wing, and yeah, it looks like Serena's just going to go ahead and concede. I think that was a wise choice. Again, like we talked about earlier, 14 minutes left in the round. The players don't know exactly how much time is left, but they both have an idea of kind of what's going on.
Right.
And Sorina, similar to Anthony's decision in the first game, is just saying, okay, I think I'm going to lose this game, but I think my loss is going to take X amount of minutes, and I would rather spend those X amount of minutes playing a game 3 that I can potentially win.
Yeah, that one was an interesting choice here, that concession. I don't particularly think I was wrong. I don't particularly think it was wrong. But it was definitely an interesting choice because that was a much closer game than the game that we had seen before, where it seemed like Anthony was for sure, just out of the game. It seemed like he was for sure going to lose that. In this particular game, it was still up in the air. She could have still came back, but she was definitely behind. And I think it's a wise choice to get yourself a full game 3 here. We saw how both decks can operate. We saw how when Sorina's deck operates at full momentum and slows Anthony's deck to the point where he's always behind, where she can really take over the game. And then we saw how when Anthony actually gets ahead, how if he can maintain, that pressure and stay ahead, then he's going to stay in this game. It's a really interesting back and forth here, but that darkness resistance does come into play, as well as just the pressure that Mega Gardevoir can really put on you. We have not seen a Garbotoxin, though, and that could actually be really huge in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We don't have decklist in front of us, so I'm not sure exactly what Anthony's kind of Pokemon suite is, but Garbotoxin can be huge. We take a look at Anthony's prizes and don't really see too much of note. And Sorina has 2 ends prized, and
that's pretty much
about it. Yeah, not too bad for either player. So we are kicking off game 3.
A little roadblock action here from Anthony to start this game. Not the Pokemon you want to see in your active position at the start of the game, but you got to play the cards you're dealt. As now Tapu Lele also is not an ideal starter, but at the very least Tapu Lele can start attacking on the second turn here. And Sycamore draws Sorina 7 cards, but does get rid of 4 resources to do so.
Yeah, so interesting to note about the Sudowoodo is that this is another one of the advantages of the Gardevoir deck getting to Despair Ray, is that you can play cards like this where you go, okay, if I start with it or if I have to play it in a matchup where it's not great, that's fine, whatever. I'll just Despair Ray it away.
Sure.
So it kind of allows you a little bit more flexibility to say, man, normally if I open this card, it kind of sucks if I'm not playing against a deck that it can take advantage of, but now I can just Despair Ray it away, and it allows you to kind of open yourself up. We see Oricorio, also a reason for that, just kind of finding you 2 energy, and then when you don't need it anymore, you just get rid of it.
Yeah, I do think that's kind of the correct way to play the Gardevoir deck. I think playing as many single one-ofs that could potentially mess with your opponent's strategy as you can is always going to be strong. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play the Oricorio that counters the Vespiquen, for example. Things like that. But at the same time, Anthony here does want to get a decent setup. Goes for Mallow here as his supporter of choice.
I unfortunately did not see what card he chose with the Mallow, but I know that one wasn't Oricorio.
Right.
So we'll likely be drawing both of those cards this turn. Shaman setup, and just kind of add those cards to his hand, kind of the combo that we've seen in this deck. And there it is.
Shaman sets up, draws him a couple of cards.
I just draws the one
single card. Sorry.
Yeah. So the top one was a Hoopa EX, which just kind of going to go ahead and reset the shuffle anyway and find him 3 EX Pokemon. So he'll be getting some Gardevoirs here, and yep, so far, besides starting with the non-optimal starter in Sudowoodo, he is kind of doing everything he wants to do.
Yeah, and because he doesn't have the Skyfield, he does have to worry about things like bench size, which means only a single Gardevoir gets found by the Hoopa instead of the 2 that it normally finds. But that Shaman now will be able to set him up for a couple of cards and finds this the Fairy Energy on the final card there, so he does get to play an energy before he passes the turn, which is very important, as he would have fallen very far behind if he hadn't found the Fairy Energy.
Yep, and so basically Anthony has just passed with a pretty decent board setup. He has a Spirit Link even, he has the energy on, he's just saying, all right, next turn, things go my way, I can start attacking and start pressing my advantage. And Sorina, now it's up to Sorina to kind of fight back a little bit and start getting her own setup going.
Now, Ultra Ball does have to get rid of a couple of cards from Sorina's hand, but it will find her potentially Darkrai, potentially say Tapu Lele. But the Tapu Lele, yeah, well, actually, she got rid of a Tapu Lele, didn't she?
So just finding a Darkrai off of the Ultra Ball. Looks like just saying, okay, I need an attacker. I need to start getting something, some offense going. She already has that non-EX Evoltol on the bench, so doesn't really need to worry about much else. And speaking of the non-EX Evoltol, she's committing to it. Gonna take a look at her discard pile first, though.
Doesn't have any darkness energies in the discard
She
pile
does.
yet. She does?
It's the very bottom card, yeah.
Okay, the bottom card is the darkness energy, so she does have one. Chooses to play the choice band onto the Darkrai and not the Yveltal, and then follows that up with a Sycamore, drawing 7 cards here.
Yeah, she's going to attack with the Yveltal. This turn, it's likely that it's going to be return knocked out, so no really reason to commit the choice band to it, especially when you're attacking into a Sudowoodo. So smart play by her.
One more card does not find a darkness energy for Max Elixir here. So that's a key miss here, as that's her, I believe, her first time missing with the Max Elixir on camera today. That's a big time miss. That's definitely not an ideal situation, as this is game 3. It's all on the line, and your opponent had a very powerful start to start his first turn, and you want to kind of follow that up as much as you can.
Yeah, 14 Dark Energy. It looks like 10 left in the deck, maybe. Miss. So pretty unfortunate there, never what you want to see. But we are seeing an Oblivion Wing. So Sorina not quite having the same kind of absurd board setup, that Anthony has. However, she can't really play the same way. She is just attaching energy. She is just kind of building up the Darkrai's, and it's possible here that Anthony can kind of start running her over if she continues to things like miss on Max Elixir, and if Anthony can continue pressuring her. So it'll be really interesting to see how this last couple minutes of this game go, as both players redraw to 6 cards.
Yep, so on the second turn of the game, we do see the first end. And Anthony does find the Mega Gardevoir, but because he already had the Spirit Link on the Mega Gardevoir, that's going to give him the energy and the evolution that he needs to start attacking here. So now, as long as he can get that Sudowoodo onto the bench, he does not have the access to the Floatstone, though, which means that Sudowoodo is stuck in that active position, which is just awful. There's no other way to put it. That's just an awful situation here for Anthony, as now Sorina will be able to keep Oblivion Winging, putting as many energy into play as she can if she chooses to go that route. That's the route I would take, I think. I don't think you want to take a knockout on the Sudowoodo quite yet. I think that it's just not as important to take a prize as it is to start setting yourself up for big turns against the Mega Gardevoir deck. Another thing she can do is start Lysandering up the Mega Gardevoir and putting taking the fight to it. But either way, and that is what she's going to do. She's going to do the Lysander play, bringing the Mega Gardevoir up and choosing to attack it. That's a powerful play, and actually I think that I don't mind that one. I also wouldn't have minded the Oblivion Wing onto the Sudowoodo, kind of force your opponent to draw out of the position that he's stuck in here recently. But at the same time, now the Mega Gardevoir does not have a guaranteed second attack to be able to use. So this one attack might be all that it can muster up. And a Professor Sycamore will draw Anthony 7 cards here, as Anthony now needs to start finding a backup attacker. And by the way, look at the board here for Anthony. It does not look very appealing when you're the Mega Gardevoir deck. You really don't have a way to really set up additional attackers yet.
Yeah, so Sorina kind of chose to play the more aggressive route there. She could have, like you had said, just Oblivion Wing, kind of spent more turns setting up, which seems like the obvious play. Who cares about the Sudowoodo? I'm just going to build up my board. But the problem is that if you continue to go that route, Anthony has an advantage, because him building up his board, getting an extra turn or 2 is so much more important than yours. The thing that she's losing here is that the Darkrai is taking damage now, but he could have had a Lysander. He could have really put her in a poor position if she hadn't done this. So I think either play is justifiable, but I do appreciate where she's coming from here, just trying to be as aggressive as possible.
I agree. Definitely don't falter for that play, as the most important part here is just going to be to get a knockout onto the Mega Gardevoir. Look at it. Look at what Anthony had to do. He had to attach a Fairy Energy onto the Tapu Lele, because that was the only potential attacker he had. He had no other Gardevoirs in play, and that's just because of the start that he had and the fact that he was just trying to climb out of it. So he had to use 2 setups on his first turn of the game in order to kind of get the energy into play to even potentially attack on his turn.
Yeah, the unfortunate part here is that it doesn't look like Sorina is going to be able to get the knockout. She would need another energy on the board, and she's already attached, so she does have to retreat. So she's still putting pressure on the Gardevoir, and that is, in a way, more valuable than putting pressure on the Sudowoodo, but she really would have liked to have seen a Max Elixir there. However,
a Lysander here from Anthony would be huge.
Yeah, however, Sorina, again, because of the power of Darkrai, she's still building up her board, she's still letting things happen, and she is still, putting herself in a fine position, just not exactly what she wanted. And the big problem, too, is that she kind of just doesn't really have much going on in her hand right now, just a redundant Stadium, a Darkrai, and an Energy. So if she's going to win this game, she's going to need to have a few fortunate top decks.
Well, there's a Rescue Stretcher, which brings up the Oricorio, which is going to let it bring an energy from the deck onto her hand, which is nice. But you're right, or onto his hand, sorry. Which is nice, but you're right that his hand is just not very aggressive. It doesn't really have anything going for it. So it's a rough situation here if you're Anthony. You don't have the resources. Your deck isn't cooperating with you on either this turn or the turn before, which now means that he has to Tapu Lele. I wonder if the Tapu Lele is going to find him a Lysander or if it's just going to find him a draw supporter. He does go for the Lysander, decides that getting rid of one energy and the choice band and taking 2 prizes to go with it is definitely worth the Lysander Tapu Lele investment.
Yeah, it is. He's just, the thing is about this deck is that once you kind of get going like this, he's fortunate to not really need to set up a whole lot. He just, if you have any Pokemon, they all kind of do the same thing. He is going to need to discard a few Pokemon here, but he can keep that Gardevoir and that Tapu Lele, so he can keep attacking even if something goes wrong here.
So we do see a net loss of 1 Darkness Energy and 1 Choice Band here from Sorina, but a net gain of 2 prizes from Anthony. So can't really complain there if you're Anthony. And more importantly, that was the attacker that Sorina had. That was who Sorina was kind of powering up. Now, if she wants to attack with a Nani Beltal, it's going to have to be a Darkrai, which, is just more energy that he's committing to the board. And that's not even guaranteed that she'll, be able to keep this kind of pressure up.
Yeah, the unfortunate part here is I think she's in a position where she doesn't really have she doesn't have enough energy. She's going to have to retreat to that Oblivion Wing. So she now will guaranteed have enough energy if she can start attacking with a Darkrai next turn, but she's doing 10 damage and building up, and Anthony's at 4 prizes remaining to her 6, so just, if he can pull off some Lysander tricks, or even just do what he did last game and kind of play it more slow and take out this Eviltal, he can be in a solid position. The other thing is that she's also building up that second Gardevoir.
Right.
Already has energy on it, needs to find a Spirit Link, needs to find a Mega. He still has some work to do, but he's definitely a couple turns ago he didn't have a Gardevoir on the board. He was searching for it, and now he just needs to find the Spirit Link.
I think I would have liked to see 1 energy go onto the Tapu Lele here to threaten a knockout with the Tapu Lele onto the Mega Gardevoir. It's close, but I think that losing a Tapu Lele is less painful than losing a Darkrai. At the same time, it is easy to knock out this Tapu Lele, and it is the Pokemon with your max elixir, with your experience share. So I could be wrong, but either way, the more important thing is that Anthony now is starting to set up a Gardevoir on the bench, which is going to be following up the Mega Gardevoir that Anthony has attacking here. So once it does get knocked out, we will see potentially, as long as Anthony finds a Spirit Link, a backup attacker here from Anthony, which is, like we said earlier, it's really the key to victory for Anthony. If he can get a constant stream of Mega Gardevoirs, he should theoretically have the advantage in this game.
Yeah, so here's the Mallow again, setting things up for him. Really cool that we're able to see that card be played a little bit, and we're gonna see a Despair Ray for the knockout. 3 prizes remaining.
Does take 3 prizes. 1 prize here knocks out that Yveltal, but sheesh.
So the other kind of elephant in the room is that I believe time is getting called just about now. Our clock could be off the judges a little bit, but either way, it's going to be very difficult.
Looks like time is officially called. We've just gotten notification of that.
Sorina has turned 0. So Anthony, Sorina, unless something goes wrong with Anthony not having Pokemon or something, he's going to have a very hard time winning this game. Anthony can do it, as he will have turns 1 and 3. So this is going to kind of change the landscape of how these guys change the landscape of the game and change how they're playing. I see Sorina put the top card of her deck in a discard pile on accident. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Sorina's definitely probably going to start playing very defensively. There's no reason for her not to. Well, at the same time, pretty much all of her Pokemon have the same HP, so it's not really like she can really do anything beyond just not play additional, weaker Pokemon. And Anthony's just going to kind of hope that Sorina missteps, because he needs to take 2 prizes or 3 prizes in 2 turns, and that's just not easy to do when your opponent has so many high hit point Pokemon and you're just struggling to deal that much damage.
We see a Max Elixir just continuing to build up the board. Plenty of energy for Sorina. So Serena's hope is going to be, I didn't see Anthony's hand, but Serena's hope is going to be that Anthony she can get enough energy to just knock out this Gardevoir and Anthony has nothing else.
Right.
She's only going to get this turn and turn two. Yep.
But I mean, if Anthony literally just plays a Pokemon, I think that's all she wrote for
Yeah, so there's a knockout. Serena goes down to 4 prizes. Now, let's see if Anthony can do it. He actually has a chance to win this game. Can he do it?
This is his turn 1.
Need a lot. There's a Spirit Link.
Spirit Link, that's a big time Spirit Link. Huge Spirit Link, actually. Now, we do see the Mega Gardevoir, and we do see an Ultra Ball, so it looks like that's going to be the end of Serena's chances of winning the game. But she can still get a draw out of this. So it's up to Anthony to really claw his way into a victory here. But I do believe that Sorina will no longer be able to get a victory here.
Yeah, so let's see if Anthony can get this knockout and then a knockout on the next turn. He does need a lot here. He has, as you can see, he has no bench. He has an Ultra Ball, so he needs to put kind of all of it together here. I think we're going to see a Dragonite. Again, kind of the key to rebuilding here, as we do see it hit the field with that pull-up ability, searching your deck for 2 Pokemon, or searching your discard pile, rather, for 2 Pokemon, and allowing him to fill his bench and hopefully use some abilities to draw cards. You see, I think he's getting a Tapu Lele and a Hoopa. Hoopa will allow him to take Pokemon out of his deck and fill his bench. So this is exactly kind of what you want to be doing.
Tapu Lele does get pulled up by the Dragonite, which means we get to see a Wonder Tag here from Anthony. Looks like he might be eyeing... Oh, I don't even know what you're eyeing at this point. Like, really, you just want to make sure you get as many Pokemon in play as you can, and you want to do that on the following turn as well. Lysander is the choice from Anthony here. So
the problem is that he has to take a knockout on the Tapu Lele. He won't be able to take a knockout on the Darkrai, so that's why looks like he got the Lysander. And we're gonna have to see what Sorina chooses to do next turn. There's a Dragonite and a Shaman.
Plenty of cards here for Anthony to work with. As long as he gets that knockout, that's the real key to the puzzle here.
So here comes that, just attaching a Psychic Energy to the Tapu Lele, hopefully having a little bit more game in the future. There's a Lysander on the Tapu Lele on Serena's side of the board. There's a Shaman drawing 4 cards, I believe. Does hit the Sky Field, which is going to be big.
That Skyfield is crucial. That means that he can. That means that he's going to be able to actually threaten a knockout onto the Darkrai's in the future, because that's the exact card that he needs to be able to deal that additional damage and get past the resistance on the Darkrai EX.
There's a Rescue Stretcher, finding either 1 Pokemon and returning it to his hand, or shuffling 3 back into his deck. Looks like he is pulling up a Shaman and 2 Gardevoir. Oh, no, maybe 2 Shaman instead.
Yeah.
Taking a look at his discard pile.
As long as he has Rescue Stretcher targets still left in the discard pile, you probably want to get as many Shamans in your deck as you can. Now, at this point, he might be regretting getting the Lysander onto the Darkrai. Though, I guess you still want to get rid of the experience share.
He also can't. He won't be able to take the knockout on the Darkrai because of resistance.
Well, with Skyfield,
it'll do 190 and then minus 20.
Ah, you're right. Yeah.
So Sorina has to make a mistake and go for something here, which I don't imagine that she will. There's also potential for maybe she tries something and a Tapu Lele energy drives or something like that. But
sure.
If everything goes correctly, we don't have deck lists, so maybe there's something secret that we're
like
missing.
A Kukui maybe, or something.
There's something that there's could be definitely something happening, but
there's always that threat whenever you play Tapu Lele, you know.
Yeah. But based on the information that we have, it looks like Anthony is just going to try to take a knockout here.
Another couple of cards.
Another Shaman.
And then finally one last one from the Shaman. A couple of setups. Has enough to knock out the Tapu Lele, but that still leaves him at just a single prize with only a single turn to go. That is not enough for the victory quite yet. Like we said earlier, Sorina cannot get a win, but she can get a draw here.
So I believe this will be turn 2 of 3.
It is the second of the 3 turns.
So Sorina now doesn't really have much going on. This is her last turn, and she needs to take 4 prizes, which
she can literally just pass here at this point. By the way.
It's possible that we're wrong on which turn it is.
I think if I were Sorina, I would go for a counter stadium if I have access to that, but I would not play any Pokemon to do so, obviously, and that's all I would commit.
There is a altar of the...
That is huge. That's exactly what she wanted to get, was a counter to the Skyfield, make it a little bit harder for Anthony to get a knockout. Even if he does have, which remember, we have no idea if he does, but even if he does have access to additional damage, then all of a sudden Anthony will be able to, will have to find a Skyfield as well as multiple Pokemon to be able to get this big knockout onto Sorina's Pokemon. This is a huge turn of events here for Sorina. She gets that counter stadium. Now, it's going to be very difficult for Anthony to pull this off, but if he does, I mean, think about it. On the final turn of the game, the final turn of time extension, to go up to 3-0 at the International Championships, that's a dream scenario.
Well, I think what Sorina's doing right now is just kind of double-checking that nothing can go wrong for her. She played the counter stadium, getting rid of the Skyfield, saying, okay, if there's something I'm missing, at least she has to rebuild with the stadium. Now, she played a Hex Maniac as well, just saying, okay, I'm going to shut off those abilities and give you a much little smaller chance. Now she's looking at the discard pile and just kind of determining, okay, is there anything I'm missing? What exactly is going on here? She's counting up energy. And she's going to attack. I believe
There's
this is
the
turn
attack.
3 of time.
So here we go, the final turn of the game. Will Anthony have what he needs? He needs to find multiple Pokemon, a Skyfield, and a way to deal 10 additional damage. Beyond the natural damage that the Mega Gardevoir can deal. It looks like Anthony's putting his hands down.
Yeah, I don't think he has a way out, and they're just going to go ahead and draw. Unfortunate turn of events there. Just if that game had lasted just a few more turns, things could have been differently.
Sure.
One of the, Anthony probably would have been able to take the win.